up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's your girl Jada here, back with another video, and today we are going to be talking about the show White Lotus. Now, I had originally heard about this show here on YouTube from other creators because they had been talking about it constantly, and I was just like, okay, then I guess I will check it out. But this is an HBO show, so there is a little bit of nudity here and there if you're trying to go and watch it. I would obviously suggest you watch it before you listen to me spoil the entire first season, but this is pretty much just me giving like a recap of it. They do have 7 episodes, but each episode is like an hour plus long, so I'm just going to warn you. But if you have watched, for example, Game of Thrones and other HBO shows, I think you would probably already know this information. But they have 2 seasons. Like I said, we're only going to be talking about season 1 in this video, but I will be making a video shortly about season 2 because I'm in the middle of watching that right now as well. But I was like, we're not going to overload the people by talking about 2 whole seasons in one video, Jada. Okay, we're not going to do that. So let's get into it. Now, the first season got released back in 2021. I personally think it's a very easy watch, honestly, and it's very strangely interesting because of both the storyline and also the characters. Because I feel like in a lot of the TV shows that I've watched, at least over the last year or two, it's been more so because I like the characters, not because they necessarily do anything interesting in terms of a storyline. I don't know how to necessarily explain that, so I'm just going to leave that right there. I'm just going to read really quickly the write-up that I found on Google when it came to this show. So it says, dark secrets and twisted truths of the guests, the staff, and the locale of the resort are unveiled over the course of a week that was supposed to be a relaxing vacation. So in season 2, that pretty much ends up being the premise as well. So I do apologize also if you guys hear some banging in the background. My neighbor has someone working on their house or doing something in the yard, and it's just really loud. But I was like, I already have makeup on, I'm not gonna be refilming this, so we're just gonna try to ignore it. Okay, we're gonna focus on season 1, like I said already. So the cast, at least, you know, the main ones that I really focused on, we had Jennifer Coolidge as Tanya, Sydney Sweeney as Olivia, Alexandra Daddario as Rachel, Jake Lacey as Shane, Murray Bartlett as Armand, Steve Zahn as Mark, Connie Britton as Nicole, Natasha Rothwell as Belinda, Fred Hetchinger as Quinn, and Brittany O'Grady as Paula. And in true HBO fashion, the intro is also ridiculously long. So yeah, even though the episodes are like an hour plus, I'm pretty sure those intros take up at least 2 to 5 minutes sometimes. I doubt it's like 5 minutes long, but in my mind it's 5 minutes long because it's like, why is this so lengthy? It's just an intro to introduce the show. Like, it really should just be a couple seconds and we in it, you know? But that's just me. So to start off the show, we're at the airport a week into the future. So Shane is on his honeymoon and sees a dead body being put into the plane that he's about to be boarding. We find out he stayed at the hotel that this dead body was actually being transferred from. But who was this person? That was the major question. We just get put into the situation. There's a dead body. We don't know who it is, like what the situation was, nothing, no information. So then we go back in time about a week. We have the Mossbacher family along with their daughter's friend Paula, the Pattons, and Tanya all come over to the White Lotus Hotel on a boat. Now, the characters of Olivia and Paula, they're very judgy when it comes to the other people on the boat ride. And they just seem really disinterested in actually being there, but just making fun of other people. That's pretty much all they seem to really like doing together. Everyone arrives on the island and they meet some of the staff, and Armand kind of jumps out to me as one of those really paranoid people, but it kind of makes sense because he's the hotel's manager. So he's definitely the character that kind of jumps out at me in that moment. But Tanya is the only one that's kind of a little off in terms of how she acts around people, and she asked Belinda to squeeze her in for a massage at the hotel spa. But then there's Lonnie, who's new on the job and helps Tanya settle into her room. And Tanya had also brought her mom's ashes on this trip with her, which ends up turning into a whole long, drawn out thing the entire season. The entire season, she's trying to figure out how to get rid of these ashes, how to spread this woman's ashes. It was like, girl, just pick a spot and let's just do this, you know? But the Pattons, aka Rachel and Shane, are newlyweds on their honeymoon, and they end up getting put in the wrong room, and Shane makes it a huge deal while Rachel is just, she doesn't really care. She just wants to enjoy their vacation, and Shane just could not get over it. And it comes back up over and over again throughout the entirety of the show. Shane is just one of those really like annoying types. Olivia and Paula are both miserable together. They're complaining about Olivia's family and how rich all the other people at the hotel are, even though Olivia comes from a wealthy family herself. It was just kind of like, okay. So they definitely strike me as those types that would complain about how unfair the world is and never actually do anything about it except talk. So that's the vibe that I'm getting from both of them. Now, I don't know if Paula is also kind of well off or if she comes from more of a middle class family. I have no idea. But it's very interesting to watch them just constantly complain about things, and it's just kind of like, well, I don't really see any action behind anything that you do. So Tanya finally gets her massage, and we find out that Lonnie is also pregnant and in labor for almost the entire day. And I'm just like, girl, I don't think any job is worth you having issues instead of just giving birth. Like, why are you trying to hold off until the end of your shift? I can understand, yes, you need the job, but you can find another job after your child is born safely, okay? I'm just saying. So Armand realizes that he did indeed make a mistake double booking the room that the Pattons were actually supposed to have, and Shane basically becomes one of those really incessant pests that you just can't get rid of. Now, Rachel starts having this identity crisis and meets Paula and Olivia at the pool, and they're very evasive with their questions until Rachel starts asking some questions back, and right after that they just kind of shut down, and it's just so weird. The interaction is very strange, but we're just gonna move on. Now, Lonnie ends up having her baby, and Tanya tries to convince Belinda to open her own wellness center, and she would be an investor. Olivia's parents, Nicole and Mark, are also trying to figure out if Mark has cancer or not, because he believes at this moment that his dad had also passed away from testicular cancer at the age that he was. Olivia and Paula start taking substances, okay, some substances, and Tanya somehow finds them, and Tanya ends up realizing that they left their bag because Tanya was actually speaking to them while they were all out of it, because like I said, they were taking stuff. Basically, she finds the bag and she gives it to one of the employees to give to Armand, their manager. But Armand ends up looking through the bag and he finds these substances, and we're going to talk about that later. But he is definitely struggling already with his sobriety, and let's just say it doesn't help anything that he found this bag. So he starts to take the pills and powders that he finds in the bag, and he uses that to try and deal with everything that's going on. And people eventually start noticing that he is kind of spiraling just a little bit, but it's mainly Belinda and Shane because everyone else is just in their own world. But Shane only notices because he just has this vendetta for Armand until he gets this room. But Mark finds out that he doesn't have cancer and that his dad actually didn't die from cancer, but instead from AIDS, and he was actually secretly gay. So that definitely threw him for a loop. So to kind of deal with it, he decides to sign up along with his son Quinn for scuba diving, and it's really awkward because Quinn would much rather just play games all day in the hotel room. But Quinn ends up sleeping on the beach for the rest of their vacation because Olivia and Paula make him feel really unwanted in the hotel room that they were staying in. But that's where he ends up meeting these, I guess, men, these random men on the beach that come there every morning to row their canoe because they're competitive, I don't know what to call it, rowers? Y'all let me know. But that's pretty much how he ends up meeting them. Paula starts pulling away from Olivia to hang out with this boy that works at the hotel, and Olivia starts noticing this and asking a lot of questions. But of course, Paula just kept pushing it off because, you know, she doesn't really feel like she can necessarily trust Olivia with the information, but we're gonna talk about that shortly. So Rachel's still having her crisis the rest of the show, and Shane doesn't seem to really care. He just thinks money kind of solves all your problems and that she should just quit her journalist job because it's not really in his mind worth it to keep. And it's like, why would you need to work anyway when my family has money and we could take care of you? So he doesn't really understand where she's coming from. It's not really about the job. It's the fact that I want to do what it is that I think I'm talented at. So that's how that goes. But she tries to go to Nicole for some advice because she had written a piece about her and her success as a businesswoman. So in this moment, Nicole has no idea who this woman is, okay? She has no idea who Rachel is. She just sees her as some sweet girl because she kind of knows her from her work. But after Nicole finds out that Rachel was actually the one who wrote a piece on her that she didn't particularly like, yeah, she definitely goes in, and that positive experience turns to a very soul-shattering one really quickly. Now, Shane turns up the heat about the room situation, and Armand ends up hitting those substances really hard. And somehow Shane also ends up catching him doing some strange things to one of his employees in his office after they were both pretty heavily under the influence. So to make sure that Shane didn't really say anything about what he saw, Armand ends up surprising Shane with his mom, and you could see that Rachel was less than impressed with her visit. It seems like they maybe have a love-hate relationship. I don't know, but maybe it's more so on Rachel's end. I have no idea. But she starts talking to Rachel and makes things even worse when it comes to her relationship with Shane. And she's really wondering if she could be happy with this, and after getting married to him after just a few months of dating and really even knowing each other. So she's really struggling with if she made the right decision marrying this man. Now, Tanya is still trying to figure out how to get rid of these ashes, but ends up meeting this older gentleman who's actually really sick. And they start getting pretty close, even though Tanya is really strange. Now, because of this new relationship, Tanya starts forgetting about Belinda and the whole investing in her business thing. And Belinda had even come up with a whole business plan and write-up, and she was giving it to Tanya to take a look at. But Tanya was so busy trying to chase after this man. And I'm like, really? So Tanya just ends up letting Belinda down, really, and I kind of felt really bad for her in that moment because you could tell she really wanted it, and Tanya was just hyping her up basically to let her down just a couple days later. And it was so like, ooh, I felt bad. I really did. Now, things with Olivia and Paula are going downhill because their friendship is pretty messed up, with Olivia pretty much just getting jealous of Paula when she had something that she didn't, and she'd actually stolen a boy that Paula was kind of romantically interested in a little while back. I don't know if Paula was necessarily in a relationship with this boy, or maybe she was just interested in him in that way and was gonna see if it was gonna lead to a relationship. But either way, I guess before the story actually begins and they reach this island, a little further back into their friendship, that's when that happened. And yeah, you could see that from then on, Paula didn't really trust Olivia like that. And I could totally understand. But the thing is, it's like, why are you still friends with someone that you can't trust, you know? Unless you're just trying to continue to extract things from them because they're wealthy. I don't know. But y'all could, of course, let me know how y'all feel about that. But I just think that's very interesting. Either way, she just was like, yeah, I'm not telling Olivia about this little fling that I'm having with this boy because, yeah, she likes to take everything that I have. Now, Paula decides to tell her new boo thing that the family would be out of their room at a certain time during the day so that he could go into the room, into their safe, and steal this $75,000 bracelet that Nicole had on. But things end up going wrong with the plan because Nicole and Mark end up going back to the room, and Paula's boo ends up having to fight his way out of the room to escape with the stolen goods. Now, he does end up getting caught eventually, but Olivia had pretty much figured out that Paula was behind the whole thing way before they found him, and now Paula feels guilty that she basically ruined his life when it was all her idea in the first place. Armand finally gets Shane and Rachel into the room that he wanted after all that pestering, but then Shane ended up seeing a bruise on Mark's face when they were out to breakfast one day, and he asked him about it, and then that's when Mark told him about the robbery. So now Shane finds out about the robbery and he makes noise to the higher-ups, who Armand now thinks are coming to fire him, but he doesn't know that for sure. He just kind of guesses. And Rachel ends up having a little bit of a breakdown and meets Belinda at the spa because she was getting some type of facial done at the time. And while Rachel's having this somewhat emotional reaction at the spa, Belinda sees her, she gives her a card, and it's just like, you know what, you can call me at any time if you need anything. And this was before Tanya had crushed her soul. So I just want to give you guys a timeline. Now, Rachel ends up telling Shane that she feels that she made a mistake marrying him finally, but he doesn't accept that information. But Rachel does get another room when she tries to talk to Belinda to get some advice. But this was now after Tanya had ruined her dreams, and she just pretty much tells Rachel that she's out of advice, and she walks out of the room. And Rachel's just pretty much left to her own devices. But I could totally understand Belinda's standpoint, because at this point in time, she is over helping people because it has clearly not really gotten her anywhere. Armand decides that since he might be getting fired, to just say screw it. He got as high as he possibly could just to get through the night, and then he somehow makes his way up to Shane and Rachel's room, and he decided to take a dump in Shane's suitcase. And I don't blame him, but Shane ends up coming back up into the room with Armand still in there. So Shane hears something, he grabs a knife, and then he accidentally plunges it into Armand, and Armand eventually dies in the bathtub only moments after Shane left it to go find help. But I honestly think that Armand was already low-key dead inside before actually physically passing away. And in the next scene, we just see Tanya just casually throwing her mother's ashes onto the shore of the beach, while Quinn is just sitting there watching her. It's just so interesting. Now everyone is now leaving the island. Rachel goes back to Shane, but you could tell she might regret that decision. And Quinn, instead of actually getting on the plane with his family, he decides to run out of the airport as soon as they turn the corner, and he heads right back to the beach with the canoe guys. But I'm trying to figure out what's he gonna do in terms of like a place to stay, education, work, money. I mean, eventually I'm sure his family would figure out that he's not there, but at the same time, it's just kind of like, I don't know if he entirely thought this through, but yeah, I'm guessing that he just really wasn't happy with his life wherever they came from. I don't know which state that was, but yeah, I could tell that he just wasn't really happy, but nobody was listening to him. But at the same time, he was really delusional in terms of what he wanted to do, because it's like, who's gonna stay with you? You're 16, you know what I'm saying? So everyone seems to be having some type of crisis in the show. Besides Shane, really, Shane is kind of the only one who is just kind of like, you know, I don't really care. I just want this room. That is his obsession. That is what he fixates on this entire season. And he's just so, ooh, like, yeah. But anyways, so Armand ends up being the dead person that we see being carried into the plane. I think the show is very interesting. So far, season 2 is shaping out to also be similar in terms of the storyline, but with different characters. I think the only two characters that end up remaining are Tanya and also her now in season 2 husband, who I guess she marries after she meets him in Hawaii at this hotel. It's basically the White Lotus again, but it's a different hotel in Italy. So y'all definitely come back for season 2, okay? We're gonna talk about that as well. I don't know when they're gonna be coming out with season 3, because I think season 2 was 2023, sometime last year. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, I'd probably say maybe sometime next year, but that's just me guessing, you know. I'm hoping so, but I can definitely understand why people were talking about this show so much. I get it now. Tanya was a little off, but I honestly think that most of the characters that Jennifer Coolidge plays are a little off, but that's just kind of who she is in terms of personality. But it's very interesting to watch, you know, like sometimes it's funny, but at the same time it's so like off-putting but intriguing. I don't know how to explain it, but y'all let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.